Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
I'm Sabib.
And I'm Linz.
And this is Cinema Worms Podcast.
During the first Home Alone, there's a scene where Kevin roots through his brother's stuff and finds a picture of his ugly girlfriend. The director, Chris Columbus, thought it would be too cruel to make fun of a photo of a real girl, so he instead asked his son to put a wig on and take a photo. Today we're going to be talking about dangerous animals, which I saw alone. I can't believe you left me in the cinema with all those dangerous animals around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Directed by Australian filmmaker Sean Byrne, who also directed The Devil's Candy in 2015 and 2009's Loved Ones. And it stars Jai Courtney, who you will recognise, as I did, as the dauntless leader from the Divergent film series, a film series that I have just myriad bad feelings about, and who's appeared in many other projects, including both Suicide Squads and Jack Reacher. So he's been on quite some high-profile projects. Courtney plays a serial killer called Tucker, the most Australian name I've ever heard, who has a very specific desire to feed his victims to sharks, film the attacks happening, and then eat cereal and watch the videos later on.
Oh.
It's a perfect accompaniment to your Fruity Loops in the morning. We find out quite early on that Tucker was himself attacked by a shark, age 7, and this left an imprint on him, quite literally, physically and mentally. And I want a special shout out to Ellen Newton here, who plays one of the two tourists Tucker takes out to swim with sharks in the cold open for this film. She plays Heather, a veritable trembling child who is now deeply regretting taking her gap year and probably should have just stayed at home in England. The film also features Hesse Harrison, who you might know from the TV show Yellowstone, and she plays the fancily named Zephyr, a surfer who lives in her van and eats only bread rolls for some reason, and this is like a character trait. Zephyr only cares about the waves and the bread rolls, and she has neither time nor effort to waste on cute boys, but she does make an exception, as we see here. So this film also stars Josh Houston, who looks like Darren Chris's hot baby brother.
Oh.
And who you'll see in the very next installment of the Dune series, Dune Prophecy. So he plays Hottie Moses, who manages to charm his way into a hookup with Zephyr one night and is surprised when he doesn't see her at the beach the next day. And her van, which remember, she lives in, it's her whole home, that's where all the bread rolls are, gets towed away so that Moses knows something must have happened to her. But what? And will all of Zephyr's life skills and resourcefulness be enough to keep her alive until someone can reach her? Now, when I heard there was a serial killer film out, I was hyped, because I'm sick. When I heard it had sharks, I was hyped, because I'm sick. And both together feel like a really odd mashup. I've not seen anyone do that before. It's entirely possible someone might have. I haven't seen it. For the most part, it kind of works. The things that sharks and serial killers have in common is a Venn diagram of bloody, gory proportions. It's not maybe particularly surprising. It certainly hits some beats that are a little bit predictable, but I found myself genuinely kind of eager to see what was going to happen to all the characters. And when someone's like running around grabbing at someone else's like feet, and there's it sort of feels like everyone's just slithering like a buttered pig through everyone else's grasp all of the time, which makes it feel quite exciting.
Yes. And what would you say like the tone was?
It's hard to... Oh, gosh. I mean, it's not comedic, really. But there are a couple of bits that I think were going for maybe more of a comedic tone. Then again, it's not as dark as I would have expected from a shark serial killer. I feel like it wants to kind of be like a thriller more than anything else. It wants to be sort of like a sharky version of like Hostel or Saw or something like that, but it's not quite that.
Remember we saw Drop?
Yes.
I mean,
how could I forget?
It doesn't sound like it's like anything like Drop, that is much grittier. But Drop, like, it's trying to achieve something thriller-like, but with some glam. And so this sounds like it's sort of trying to be...
Yeah, no, it's not like that at all.
Gritty, but not too gritty,
I wouldn't use the word gritty, and I certainly wouldn't use the word glam either. It was interesting. It felt like they went for a bit more kind of realism in general. Although there was one instance which I shouldn't have laughed because it was clearly supposed to be very serious, but there was a little bit of a CGI thing happening with one shark, and if I caught it, and I've no eyes for that kind of thing, I was like, oh boy, oh no. But no, I wouldn't have said, yeah, it's certainly not, it's not glittery, it's not glamorous, but it's not gritty either. And it doesn't feel completely, I mean, it's hard to kind of tell you what the tone was because it was a little bit shaky in places. But then again, at the same time, so you didn't see, there was another shark film that I saw. I want to say it wasn't The Shallows, that's the Blake Lively thing. It was Something in the Water, which I saw last year. It was more like that, except I was a bit more annoyed at how everybody in Something in the Water kept going in the water. Hey, that's where the sharks are. If you don't want to get bitten, don't go into their house.
I guess that's inherent to a shark film, huh?
Yeah, you got to be in the water. Whereas actually with this one, because he is a serial killer, he is choosing to feed you to sharks. He is in control, and it has become like kind of a ritual for him. So you have this kind of middleman element, which is like, okay, the sharks are, as he points out at one point, the sharks are just sharks. They're innocent. They're just kind of doing their thing. He is the one who is feeding them. And so he is like kind of thinks of himself as like the god of the sea in that way. Like he's kind of managing these creatures.
Yeah.
And of course then you could kind of argue, well, who's the dangerous animals that the film's title is speaking about? Is it the sharks? Is it Tucker? Or is it Zephyr, who does some pretty I'm sure there's like an Australian word, but I can't think of what it is. But she does some pretty gnarly things to get herself out of her bind. She's not above doing some things that made me very unhappy that I had just eaten a tuna and sweet corn sandwich right before I saw it. That sandwich wanted to reappear at one point. So if you're into sharks and you're into serial killers and you'd like to mix them together, it was a little bit like putting chocolate in your tsuzuki. Like it's not, both of those things together are fun, and it's not like it will make you throw up, but you are going to be like, well, that's a life choice that I made. Now I kind of,
metaphor.
Yeah, now I kind of want to do
it forward.
Yeah, both delicious though in their own ways. So if you like those things, go and see Dangerous Animals and let us know what you think about it.
The Ballad of Wallis Island is a British comedy drama that is directed by James Griffiths and stars Tim Key and Tom Baston and Carey Mulligan. This is based off a short film that was made actually, I emphasize 2025 because the short film was originally made and released in 2007. It was written and starring also Tim Key and Tom Baston. So they've come together again to make this film into a feature. And we are following a musician, Herb Maguire, played by Tom Baston, who is showing up on this island somewhere in the UK that's very remote and being greeted by a strange man who seems to be very obsessed with him, played by Tim Key.
This is giving me
Charles.
That Nicolas Cage film vibes.
Yes.
I will never call him Nick. He's always Nicholas. Sir Nicolas Cage.
Sir Nicolas Cage.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh yeah, we recommend that. That was a fun film.
That was a really fun film.
A bit more, definitely like absurdist than this one. Although this has its own hilarity and absurdity, but it's also very heartfelt and gentle in a way, and I think emotionally authentic. So yeah, you have this musician Herb Maguire. He's showing up to basically like Charles, his strange fan, has paid him to come to the island, and it seems to be under murky circumstances because he thinks he's going to come play a show, and then you realize like, oh, okay, we're not sure if a show is actually happening, and oh, there's not a hotel, you're just staying at Charles' house. And then Charles proceeds to produce a suitcase filled with 500,000 pounds. And I don't want to spoil it, but really it's a good to understand the premise of the film, because it sets up this dynamic where Charles is this eccentric, delightful, very annoying, talkative man who is obsessed with Herb Maguire, and particularly when Herb was in a famous folk duo called Maguire and Mortimer. And then we see that Charles has also invited the other half of that duo, Nell, played by Carey Mulligan, and she and Herb are exes. They haven't seen each other in like 10 years.
The drama.
Yeah, and they were once a great folk duo, a couple that produced amazing music that meant a lot to Charles, and he seems to be trying to sort of capture something lost, and is also just creepily obsessed with them. Herb did not know that Nell was coming, so there's all the shenanigans and drama from that. She also brings her new husband.
God, okay.
So yeah, this film basically follows the exploits mainly of this trio, and there are like two other characters. The husband, who is played by Akamenji Nidifornian, and he's like delightful, very, very American. It's like, oh, you're making him so American and annoying, and he's a bird watcher. And how do you say this name? Sean Clifford? Is it Sean? Shan Clifford, and we know her because she was in Unstable and Fleabag.
Yes.
So
I love Shan Clifford.
Yeah, she's great. She's delightful. Like she's she's lower key than in most of her other roles, but she has that bit of just like oddity, but then she's much more low key and grounded in this film as a
this is nothing to do with the film, but I think if I knew Shan Clifford, if Shan Clifford and I were friends, she would be the kind of friend whom you could call to bury a body. That's the kind of person she strikes me as. Like, yes. She would probably fuss, but she would be shoveling while she fussed. She seems like she gives that vibe. You could trust her.
In this film, I feel like she would be like, a body? A human body? Ah, I see.
Listen, we can question things and we can shovel at the same time. The two are not mutually incompatible.
So basically, this film, I didn't know much about it going in, and I'm sort of watching the dynamics. It's very much like an intimate sort of comedy drama that is following the dynamics between this former couple, between the both of them trying to deal with this eccentric fan of theirs who both irritates them, infuriates them, mostly Herb, but also endears himself to them. And it was an absolutely unexpected and delightful film. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And that's saying a lot because I've been exhausted this week. But I made myself go. I heard it was good, and I absolutely loved it. First of all, let's mention all the music. Original music.
I wanted to ask because I didn't see this film with you because I didn't have time, but I did have time for sharks.
Yes.
There's always time for sharks.
But
I just couldn't get the time in my schedule to come and see this. So how did you feel? Was it original music they were performing?
Yeah, and at the end on the credits, it says it was written by and performed by the actor Tom Baston as well.
I know that you have a particular fondness for kind of indie folk music. How did you like the music here?
Loved it.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. Yeah, really. That's always like questionable when you have to create new music for a movie and they were like supposed to be this famous artist. And I believed it because there was just enough, right? Where it wasn't like constant playing all the way through songs, but acoustic numbers with Herb and Nell were absolutely lovely. They just sort of, as the emotional currents of the film escalate, there's like more these tender moments that are punctuated by them playing music, and it feels like not too when it sounds really fake, like you're like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely not singing this live. It did sound like they were singing it live.
Okay.
And I love the
That.
music.
Yeah.
And I loved the interpersonal dynamics in the film too, because it was really, you have this character, let's call him irascible, the main musician, and he's just kind of a dick, and he's being really selfish. The 500,000 pounds does not seem to be enough of an enticement
in this economy.
Yes,
the dollar is weak at the moment. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And he's gone on to do his own music, but he's become kind of like a sellout that's also like having questionable success, and he's vain and he's insecure, but he's also, you see some tenderness and real artistic yearning underneath. And Charles, as played by Tim Key, is just absolutely absurd and amazing.
I mean, having seen Tim Key perform on Taskmaster, I completely believe that. I feel like he's wacky, he's eccentric,
that's it.
Slightly like a mild troll, having fun, doing things, pranking people, running around.
He's more like sort of silly. The reason he has all that money is because
redacted.
Spoilers.
Yeah, it's early in the film. And well, that's just so you know, like, why he's, and the humor is just so sharp. It's the dialogue. He's constantly talking, but he's annoying yet hilarious. And there's quite a bit of heart underneath all of it. And I actually found that it wasn't saccharine at all.
Okay, perfect. So would you recommend this? And if so, what kind of films would you compare it to?
I would say, you know that movie with Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley? Remember that film?
It's like the very famous actress, Keira Knightley. Yes.
I know, it's absolutely ridiculous that I don't remember. Begin Again. Yes.
Okay,
so
wait.
any of those, and a lot of people I think were fans of that. That's a bit of an indie cult classic where you have music and a sort of love story, not love story, friendship, like something between friendship and romance, a connection between people. But this film is like that, but much, much funnier and odd. And I really enjoyed that, the combination of humor and heart. And also, you know, sadness.
Okay.
There's a real sad current underneath.
Excellent. So if you would like to be sad, amused, and entertained all at the same time, go and see
The Ballad of Wallis Island.